Today's guest is Lindsay Hadley. She's a modern day Mother Teresa, and the way that she's Mother Teresa is via Hollywood. Let me tell you a little more about that. She works with A-list celebrities to fund their movies, but she primarily focuses on social impact. She literally eradicated polio in India. She has raised billions of dollars. She started the largest charity concert in the world. She's kind of like a real life angel, and she's even naturally blonde. And she knows how to raise a lot of money, and I feel like a lot of people could really take that. So enjoy this week's episode. Okay, sweetie. Okay, sweetie. Okay, sweetie. Okay, sweetie. Okay, sweetie. The Okay, Sweetie Show. What's your sign?
I'm a Leo. How about you?
I'm a Pisces. But I cry a lot, and I think that's a Pisces thing.
I think it's a Pisces thing.
Yeah.
What about you, Em? What are you?
I'm a Gemini.
So we're going to play around with the intro during the thing.
Okay.
Okay, Lindsay Hadley is here with us today, the queen of the world, essentially. Co-founder of a fund that gathers money for A-list celebrity movie projects to fund films for social impact.
That's right.
So maybe say it in your own words.
So, yeah, our Harbor Fund is the first of its kind venture capital-shaped film fund that's a nonprofit. So the idea is philanthropists donate money to this fund. They get a tax deduction. And then we invest that money into for-profit films that are like social in nature, like Think Blood Diamond, Schindler's List, Hotel Rwanda, Love on the Spectrum, Ends With Us, these types of movies that have social causes. And if there's any return, it comes back in the fund, and then we reinvest it like an endowment for the arts.
Wow. And you're like the first person to come up with that model.
That model in Hollywood.
Why?
Yeah, I'm copying the model that's been done in social impact investing really successfully. Like one of the heroes for us is Jackie Novogratz, who started Acumen Fund.
Okay.
And she's done $260 million in deployed capital into social enterprises in the same exact structure. So she pioneered this in a different, vertical, and we just brought it to Hollywood.
Wow.
And the reason why...
Tell me why.
...is because we believe that the stories we tell ourselves and that we espouse in our culture are the most important things we do as human beings.
And you have receipts to back it up, right? Like Taken did more for human trafficking than any documentary.
That's right.
And it's what are the other examples?
So many amazing examples. The movie Blood Diamond is one that a lot of people like viscerally understand from their own experience, but conflict-free diamonds suddenly became super on demand from consumers after that movie came out with starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right.
And as a result, because people were so up in arms about the fact that there were so many people that were in unethical supply chains in the diamond industry, big conglomerates like De Beers Mining changed their policies and lifted tens of millions of people out of these kind of human trafficking scenarios. It's unbelievable what can happen at the zeitgeist of culture when we change our thoughts. Another one that everybody has felt, especially in our generations, millennials and Gen Zs.
Aaron Brock?
Yeah, is LGBTQ issues. So, the first time like anyone that was gay like really was featured in major pop culture, like from Ellen DeGeneres to Will and Grace. Fast forward today, and every single piece of content has some gay character.
Right.
That was a strategy done very successfully and very intentionally through Hollywood. It's the most powerful PR engine in the world.
Why do you think people are more moved by the Hollywood stories of it all than documentaries?
I think
because there's some really good documentaries.
There's amazing documentaries, and some of them have had a remarkable impact. Like, for example, Inconvenient Truth with Al Gore, that literally was the preeminent education for climate change.
And like Spotlight, I loved Spotlight.
Spotlight was killer. Yeah, there's so many amazing docs that have come out. However, the average individual doesn't want to be hyperstimulated and educated, and most documentaries
just because it seems boring.
Well, yeah, the average person is trying to detox from all the stimulation of their day and their life when they sit down to be entertained. So they just want to be taken on a hero's journey and kind of forget that they're learning something. So it's kind of like putting spinach in your smoothie.
Yeah.
So a movie like
which I love.
Yeah, a movie like Taken is just riveting and a thriller, right? But it ends up exposing a very important social issue that's been around for, hundreds of years, which is the exploitation of women in sexual human trafficking scenarios.
Wow. And now your fund, Harbor Fund, is it's like the goat.
We're the originals, the OGs. Yeah. So people have been leveraging philanthropic dollars since before any of us were born that are alive today into public television and into docs. As philanthropists, they've been underwriting it, right? But moving it to like major television and studio-backed and scripted narrative films is kind of a new idea whose time has come. And we're the first to do this exact structure where there's a fund, an endowment, and then we're investing and we can perpetually reinvest. So the idea is really trying to take private sector solutions to a nonprofit, structure and and really have the impact that we can have at scale. And that's the thesis. So we just got started a year and a half ago.
So bossy. I love it.
But we've got a lot of success. We've had a lot of tailwind.
The other night we were hanging at a mansion party in Beverly Hills, not to brag, and Luke Wilson and Seth Green were there, and you were telling me that you invited them, and part of this thing that you're doing is that, like, essentially celebrities will come to you to fund their projects, and you pick and choose which ones you want to fund, based on their willingness to be involved in, like.
Yeah.
Can you kind of explain that for me?
Thanks for remembering that. Yeah, the idea. Yeah, Luke and Seth are friends to Harbor Fund. I met Luke through Maria, and Seth. Maria Breeze was on our board, and I met Seth through our friend Vinny. And the people like basically bring their A-list celebrity-backed projects to us because we've kind of made a litmus test to say unless it has an A-list talent, we probably won't invest in it because the celebrity component makes sure generally that it gets funded and also that it gets distribution.
Yeah.
It's just more likely. The truth is, it's not because we're like starstruck. It's because they're the masters of their craft. There's a reason Martin Scorsese is Martin Scorsese. It's because he's the best in the world at what he does.
They're the best.
So that's why we invested in a film with him. But the component you're talking about is like requiring that they actually attend our events.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
Engage like they came to this event, because what our structure really elegantly enables is the idea that there are patrons of the arts that. In antiquity, we had like the Medicis who gave us all Michelangelo. They funded his life and funded his art and gave the world the Sistine Chapel. So we're now in a modern sense allowing through this 501c3 and this nonprofit, patrons of film. And so they're donating, and then we're making projects with this talent, and then we put it out in the wild. And if there's any returns, they'll come back, and it's this perpetual, ongoing gift that keeps on giving.
Are they nice?
The celebrities?
Celebs?
Some are and some aren't, just like all humans.
I know. I figured you'd have that answer. I was like, you are consistently surrounded with like billionaires and celebrities.
That's true.
Which a lot of people really want to villainize that type of person.
Yeah, that's true. They do.
Do you think they're good? Just depends.
100%. It depends. I think this is my hot take.
Yeah, hot take it.
I think all humans are innately very good.
You do?
Yeah. I think with rare exception, you have like 2% of sociopaths. But my story I tell myself is that behind all of our maladaptive behavior and some of the worst things and shittiest things we do is a beautiful like longing that we can all have compassion for and understand our shared humanity.
Yeah, it's a hurt people thing.
Exactly.
I agree.
That's my belief.
Yeah, I can look at certain people and be like, okay, well, I understand why they're such an asshole. Yeah. And like I can have empathy for that. But then another part of me is like, okay, you're 35 years old. Like, figure your shit out.
Well, it's not to condone anyone's poor behavior or devastating, impact on the world, because we all do things that are really less than savory. I just don't believe in dehumanizing or villainizing any person or any group.
Yeah. No, you're like an angel.
No, I don't think
No, I know. I knew you were going to get uncomfortable with that, but you like really are. Like you are
I don't know about that, but I think all of us are ultimately angels. I do believe in we come from love and we return to love. And I think that in this time, we're based in a lot of fear and like a lower frequency, and we do things that are pretty unskilled in getting our needs met. Yeah. And we all can sometimes do that, but I don't know. That's why I think stories are so important.
Yeah.
Because if you can show someone in unsavory, devastating, high pressure, painful scenarios, and they can somehow, by the grace of God, rise above it, we can see ourselves
then
in
you
that.
Can inspire
and
other people.
It invites us to do the same. Yeah.
It's so crazy. Like everything is just how well stories can be told in the whole entire world.
It's true. Well, we live through narrative, right? Like I come on the show, and if I'm like, oh, I'm so important because I'm on a podcast.
Yeah.
If I somehow internalized any exposure or any of the success that I've had in my career as a part of my identity and feeling like I'm better than others, people would feel that every day by the way I engage with them. That's a story.
It's kind of, you could do that too, because you're just like, yeah, I'm hanging out with.
You could.
You're doing all this stuff.
Well, you could, and it's human to get invited to do that sometimes, right? Also, same thing in the inverse. If I have someone tell me I'm the worst ever and I internalize that story, it really impacts my day. And I've done both, right? I've bought into the press of someone thinking I'm awesome, and I bought into, someone espousing hate onto me, and that's a story, all of it. So I think the beautiful part about cinema is it's every art modality combined in one. It's music, writing, makeup, clothing,
lighting,
it's
yeah.
editing, it's, filming, it's actually photography, it's set design. I mean, it is so all encompassing and one of the most collaborative, miraculous moments of art expression that humanity has to offer. And the reality is, these filmmakers are like the shaman of our culture, and the cinema, like the theater, or even if you're at home,
streamer,
on Netflix, is like the proverbial campfire. And we're like sitting around
oh
getting
my
told
gosh, that's
stories.
a cool way to think about it.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And actually, Amy Redford, Robert Redford's daughter, who's on our advisory board,
Right.
said that at his memorial, and it just stayed with me because it's such a beautiful idea. But it's the truth. Like, humans have always passed story. And whether it's, religions are story and story frame and constructs and dogma. Everything from like your history classes, those are all filtered through narrative.
I wish that I cared more when I was a kid, or like I wish that they made it a better story. To me, I'm like,
make it more compelling.
Yeah, because like there's stuff that I would be so interested in had it been told to me better. Or maybe I was just a punk when I was in high school, but like, do you have any stories from any celeb interactions where you have to like make Leo come to like ride horses on Kevin Costner's ranch or something? Like any funny stories? We have
lots of those stories. Yeah, we've done a lot of events. So we do this thing called the Harbor Film Forum.
Yeah.
And we gather ultra high net worth people that can be potential benefactors to the fund, who will donate. Yeah. And we also have the talent come and then they actually pitch their projects. And we've had, so many different names, but it's really cool because why it's effective is we spend the morning having them pitch. Think like a benevolent Shark Tank, So
benevolent Shark Tank.
It's not as mean. We're nicer.
Do any of them suck at pitching?
Some are not as good as others. In fact, some of them have to read or like have a teleprompter or like script. Some are very nervous. Some want to be interviewed.
Are they doing slide decks, or are they or is it
are they creating
them
their own
up
slide
there?
decks?
Yeah, some do slide decks. Some have sizzles, which is like a short little teaser. Some have just kind of like imagery in the background for the feel of the film, and some just rock it raw dog and like
that's what I would think.
grab the mic.
Yeah, because they're
honestly
showmen.
the more it's interesting because many of them they're professional entertainers, so they're incredibly charismatic.
Right.
But some are like they get stage fright if they're not acting as someone else. There's something about putting on the persona. Or being like Katie Couric, for example, she's to die for when she's on our advisory board.
Obsessed with her, need her.
She's the best. And she like literally said, like, my whole career, I've read a teleprompter. So I feel uncomfortable. True. So she read hers,
I've wondered that with actors, if they have a hard time, like Timothée Chalamet. I was thinking about this with, he has a million projects a year, and he gets so into it. And then how much time does he have to just like, be Timothy?
Be normal. I know.
Can he figure that out?
On the actor Patty Jenkins, who's also on our advisory board, who did Wonder Woman, said that during Monster, the movie she won an Oscar for with Charlize Theron, she said she's totally into, and it was a dark, traumatic, painful story.
Yeah.
So she's like, it asks so much of them. So it depends on how, like, what processes these creatives use, for sure.
How do you decide, like, whether to go
if
their
Leo's
film or Chris Pine?
If they're how much does their pitch matter? Like, if they blow the pitch, are you like
yeah, but they're like,
or does it not matter because it's
Leonardo
DiCaprio?
You know what? It's a great question. I think the pitch, like anything, the better they are at something, like the better
it does
results.
matter. Yeah,
but the main thing is the confidence that donors get with that talent because they trust them. There's a trust equity. Like when they see Kevin Costner, who came to our last event in Montana, our forum, he's a legend.
Cowboy.
He's a legend, and you believe him because you've seen him through, for decades be the best at what he does. So sometimes just the very essence of their careers, the amalgamation of their careers kind of success is the confidence that's needed. But I will say each project has its own vertical issue, and so different philanthropists are called to different things. For example, Mike Rowe, who does Returning the Favor, Deadliest Jobs, he's like the American live action or the live unscripted television kind of sweetheart. And he got up and he pitched this project that's going to be called the Miller Line, which is like going to be about truckers and kind of, somewhere between like Yellowstone and Ozarks, but like for truckers.
Sick.
But the reason we felt that was social impact is it actually like deeply humanizes this entire part of Middle America.
I love Middle America.
Millions of these hardworking blue collar workers whose stories don't get told very often.
Who are totally looked past.
Exactly.
Lindsay, this is so fun. Like, you have created a job where you can get money, put on a cool event, listen to pitches for like from the most amazing people to make the most amazing projects, and then pick and choose which ones you want to give it to.
It's so fun.
And you have a hot surfer husband.
I do have a hot surfer husband.
And like you can go live in Hawaii and like shoot, it's
Very
just epic.
blessed.
Are you naturally blonde
I
too?
am. I mean, I'm probably more dishwatery than this. This is some highlights in here. What's underneath here is my natural.
You've had an awesome life. So to start, you were raised Mormon.
Yes.
And that is a pretty
high demand religion.
Pretty high demand religion.
Yeah, very.
Pretty patriarchal structure.
Yeah, very.
Which would obviously have an impact on you as a woman too.
Totally.
So essentially you grew up not thinking about work at all.
No, yeah, you're totally right. I think I was sharing that with you. I was like, you know, I had an aunt who was a therapist and an aunt who was a bus driver. My grandma was a teacher. Other than that, I had no women in my life who even had jobs.
Didn't even think about it.
Yeah, I mean, my mom did, before she had children, she was like a cosmetologist, did hair. But like, you know, these were side jobs. They were never breadwinners.
It wasn't
they were
career.
never careers. Yeah, they like my aunt who's a therapist, that's a career, but she did a part-time. It just wasn't like, I just didn't see people like that very often in my community, in my network. Teachers, secretaries, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, those are like
nurse,
woman jobs.
the dentistry,
too.
yeah.
Right.
Like, but it was very, very, I mean, I never saw anyone doing the stuff I'm doing, right? So, but it was also just like expected and deeply indoctrinated that like my job was just to be a mom. And I remember when I was studying, when I went to college, I was like asking my dad, I was like, what should I study? And he said, it doesn't really matter. You're going to be a mom. Just do what you want. So that messaging was like.
Did it piss you off? Or
do you know what's weird? It didn't. I think it was just like.
It's just
all
what it
I
was.
knew. Yeah. I just was like, I don't know. I accepted it. But also like, full disclosure, that's the greatest, most incredible call of my life. And my favorite job in the world is being a mother to my 3 children. So I never fought it because I also had a deep desire to be a mother. So
yeah, that makes sense. I think it's more about the choice of it all.
Yeah.
Like it's not to devalue like women who want to stay at home and raise their kids, but it's like the choice of it all. Like
it's just the frame, right? The story being told in my
story
community,
being told,
right?
yeah.
Like the story in my community didn't really make room. And so, yeah, it had a deep impact on me because when I did end up finding a career, because I ended up just doing nonprofit work because I just found joy in serving and I never thought about providing or economics.
Well, also your grandpa randomly had a spiritual thing,
yes.
a lightning strike, and said,
yes.
hey, Lindsay, make sure you go to college, right?
Yes, he did. He said, make sure you graduate from college. And he said, I've never told anyone this, but I just have a spiritual feeling that you're going to, really need it for your life, which was like cool. So he never said that to anybody else. It was just something he just told me. And so I promised him, I gave my word. And there was a couple times when I was in college, I was like, I should just drop out. I'm just gonna be a mom. Like I was just doing it because I got a soccer scholarship and, like
Slay.
Getting through it.
Yeah. And then in college,
yeah,
you took the
Rotaract.
Yeah. From 6,000 to 100,000.
That's right. So they're good memory. So in Rotaract, which is like a service club in college, I was the president of it one year. And yeah, like I think the year before they had raised $6,000 as a club to do, some kind of a charitable initiative. The idea is to get people involved in service and
like selling chocolate bars or something like that.
They sold oranges,
like the shittiest fucking cheesecakes ever. We used to sell cheesecakes, and they were like the worst cheesecakes you could ever even imagine.
You get it, yeah. So they sold oranges and raised $6,000. So, but the next year I was the president, and I just thought big. I just, I guess there's an audacity that's in me that sometimes I'm mortified about because I'm like, why do I do these?
That's probably your Mormon shame.
Probably is. But the audacity, I just was like, why don't we put on a concert with Ben Folds 5, which for those of you who know, that's an artist from way back in the day, states me, but
a big band.
Yeah, huge Ben Folds. Yeah.
So you say, hey, calling you up? Like how did you?
Yeah, how that came about was my good friend Sam Salisbury, who works with me today at Harbor, had been a little concert promoter, and he'd done a couple little concerts locally, and I called him and I was like, hey, I want to put on a benefit concert. And he's like, okay, well, we got to raise this much to bring the artists out and this much to produce it. And so I went and raised a bunch of money with sponsors and everything. And the entire club did. It wasn't me alone. I was this club of amazing people. We weren't big. I think there was like 12 of us, but we put this thing on and we raised $100,000 in a night for clean water wells in Cambodia, which was really fun.
But how do you get that information? Like you got their information from
he
your
knew.
homie?
Yeah, he had some connections to some agents.
Okay.
Right,
and you're a kid in college, and you're like, "Hi, can you come to my benefit concert?"
Yeah, exactly.
And you you paid the artist.
We paid the artist.
And you charge tickets, and that's how
charge
you raise.
tickets.
Okay.
Exactly. And
Okay.
so we raised $100,000, and because of it, Rotary International, which is the umbrella, adult like version of it, because we were the college like club, flew me out to Birmingham, England, and at their international conference, and gave me an award because apparently it was like the most money raised in the world for Rotaract, I guess.
Yeah, you kind of have those most in the world things with a few things. Like
I don't know about that, but in this case,
That's
well,
so sick.
you're the executive producer of the largest charity in syndication, Global Citizen Festival.
Global
It's a
Citizen.
pretty big deal.
Yeah, and didn't you also raise like $100 million to eradicate polio in India?
That's right. We did. It was definitely not just me, but there was an amazing group of people in 2011, and we put on a concert because that first concert I did in college led me to do more benefit concerts and
You were the
eventually
concert girl.
festivals. Yeah.
She's the GOAT concert charity girl.
Yeah.
So then later, I moved to Australia. I was living in Brisbane, where my husband's from. I got hired by this little tiny organization called the Global Poverty Project, which is now called Global Citizen. And they asked me to come produce a concert in Perth, Australia, around the time of the Chugum Conference, which is the World Commonwealth Leadership. So there's all the prime ministers, presidents, and the Queen of England. And they're like, hey, can you put on a concert? Because you're the concert lady.
You're the girl. You're the one.
And I was like, okay, let's do it. And I'm like, I said, how much money do you have? They're like, we have no money. And I was like, when is it? They're like, 3 months. I'm like, is your team huge? They're like, there's 6 of us. So it was like this Herculean thing. And I was about to hang up on them. But then Mick Sheldrick, who's now he's the head of all of their policy globally, which, by the way, this organization went on to leverage billions. It's $40 billion plus for the world's poor. And he called me and said, and they had like $200,000 a year at the time when I joined them. And they said, hey, he said, here's my idea. He said, instead of relying on ticket sales, merchandise, sponsorship, and donations from the, from the event that become your profit, he said, what if we have people sign a petition to like leverage that as like a constituency demonstration for the prime minister, who at the time was a woman named Julia Gillard in Australia.
Slay.
And so we'll basically show that her voters want her to put out of the foreign aid budget into polio eradication. And so we'll like gamify through this concert, voter constituency. And I'm like, that is genius. And that's why I said yes. And so I jumped and built my parachute on the way down. And by the grace of God, when all this hustle and all this things coming together, we put on this concert with John Legend and a bunch of big national Australian artists. And we got 5,000 petitions signed in less than like 30 days, which was a significant enough demonstration of voter concern that Mick got a meeting with the prime minister, and he pitched her the most rehearsed pitch of her life. And she came to our the following morning to a press conference we held, and she made her commitment matched by Bill Gates, because he had said he would match any government giving for polio. And she directly attributed her contribution to our event and us, the 6 of us on the front row. And she said, I'm giving my amount. The total was $118 million for polio eradication. And that changed my life, the trajectory of my life, because going from raising hundreds of thousands of dollars at a concert to 118
That was
million,
your first huge, massive
yeah, that
one.
was like a paradigm shift. And
is that the point where you start getting headhunted by the Leonardo DiCaprios and Matt Damons
that
of the
wasn't
world?
yet. The next thing I did, because actually what's interesting too, polio eradication, it's $1 per vaccine. And so we ended up literally eradicating our little concert, eradicated polio in India.
Thank you for eradicating polio in India.
It was
Like,
cool.
thank you for your service. That's
It was
insane.
amazing.
It's so crazy because you almost didn't even take the job.
Right.
Yes.
Polio
And
would
then-
still be there in
True.
India today.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. And all these amazing
So many people would have died.
So I know it's true. It's incredible to think about. I'm really proud of that, and I'm so grateful to have been a part of it. And the people, the talented, young, we were in our 20s, like you guys, like super young people,
Just
just
hustling.
went all in,
Yeah.
And it was just such a gift. But yeah, from there we took the same concept and we went to the World's Oyster in New York City, where you girls are from, and where you live, I should say. And we put this concert called the Global Citizen Festival in Central Park, and I was the founding executive producer and the chief development officer. And
At what age? 20?
I would have been 26, I think. Yeah, no, 27. Yeah.
The biggest charity syndication of all time.
It was. It's like Live Aid of our generation. 33 million people watching live. It's 60,000 people on the Great Lawn. We've had the biggest artists in the world, from Beyonce to Coldplay to Ed Sheeran. And yeah, the first year we had like the Foo Fighters and, the Neil Young and others. And we leveraged billions of dollars. So the first year was $1.2 billion for the world's poor. following that same strategy.
Okay, wait. Break it down for us. Like, so you eradicate polio. You're like, okay, what's next?
You make billions of dollars for the world's poor.
And then someone calls you and they're like, we want you to do it in Central Park, or that was like your idea.
It was our idea,
so,
yeah.
Okay.
In fact, Ryan Gall, who was a friend of Global Citizens at the time called Global Poverty Project, came to our concert in Perth and took photos. He was the photographer, so he didn't help put that first event on, but he was there and he was like, he was already in discussions with our team and he was like, I think we should do this in Central Park. So it was his big, hairy, audacious dream. And then we did it. It was a miracle and so hard and amazing, and all these things had to come together. But yeah, we pulled it off, and then it's now been around for like 14 years.
What's your secret of like raising money? Like, is there any
Good
strategies?
Question. Yes. The biggest thing is to be Santa Claus and not a beggar. So create value. So most charities come with their like hands open, like help me, like I'm poor, like we need help. And then, but if you can create mutual benefit and values, so in the case of the concert, sponsorships, experiences, activations, access, all these kinds of like intangible things, you can broker a lot more value. So now you're coming and being like, hey, whoever the ultra high net worth person is or brand, you care about X. By having Global Citizen be like a meta campaign that had a broad narrative, it wasn't like getting behind like anti-trafficking or conflict-free diamonds. It was ending extreme poverty, which under the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN is 16 different verticals, from women's health to, climate change to.
So even if you're someone that doesn't have connections or capital, you can still figure out it's the cause and the
I
storytelling.
had zero connections. I grew up in a tiny town in Utah, and like, literally where we had like a one blinking red light, and like the most wealthy person in our town was the veterinarian. I'm not exaggerating. And, the guy impregnated the cows. And then later, actually, when I was a little older, the founder of Mrs. Fields Cookies, her name's Debbie Fields, moved into our town. And she was like a really successful, and they were millionaires.
She was
and
a queen.
They had an amazing place, and she literally baked the best cookies. And I was best friends with her daughter, Jennifer. And I remember she was like the one, when I was thinking about how I didn't grow up around any boss ladies, I did.
Mrs. Fields was the one.
She was the first time I was like,
yeah.
And I was like, look at her running like the world, an empire. Yeah. The biggest thing is leveraging assets, like being a relentless value creator through connections and introductions and experiences. And maybe you don't have them, but you know someone who does. So you get that person and this person connected. And by eating less a lot and like taking like a smaller piece of a bigger pie, it's an abundance mentality and a resourcefulness that all entrepreneurs really need to be successful. And it's like, how do I help? How do I create value? Your hope is it'll come back. And it does. Like, not always.
Yeah.
And some individuals are total takers. Some people are really dysfunctional, and you eventually learn that and stop with them.
Is there anything about the being a woman of it all that you feel like has been advantageous or not, or disadvantageous?
Ooh, that's great. That's a great question. It's been a disadvantage in many scenarios, in that I think the biggest thing is the emotional toll of like, they really do. I mean, I hate to say this because I never wanted to have a different standard. I was like, no, if you create value, value is given. And that's true in general in society and in the free market. Like, I very little felt like hardcore misogyny, but I felt it. But
which is crazy to say in like with your upbringing.
Right, it is. I mean, I haven't felt like it and just like on the nose. It's the subtleties. In fact, they've done the multivariate analysis on this already, like the research on it. And it's only about 9% of the time that there's like actual gender bias in the marketplace and hiring and in economics and like the gender pay gap. It's all these other things that come in that are like more subtle and nuanced
like
than just
implicit?
some guy being like, you're a woman, I don't want to give it to you. It's things like, like being agreeable. So women are less likely to ask, things like being that's a big part of it is like, and that's something you can train. It's like you can train for someone to be more assertive, to get theirs, to claim their value, to think differently. But it's innately socially like wired that we're agreeable. It's also biological. Like
I think so too.
In the wild, we fawn because we can't actually outbrute like a male counterpart, So we fawn because we're the literally weaker sex. What everybody can say, I'm saying on average, our bone density, our size, our strength.
Yes.
And so what I mean by that is like we've learned to fawn. And so in the workplace and the environment, from seriously millions of years of development, we were like, oh, let me
Just
bow
accommodate.
low.
Yeah.
So those are socialized things and biological things at play, less than just like straight up, you're a woman. But they are a disadvantage nonetheless in the system and the overall experience. Another thing is women are more likely to have more varied, engagements in their life. They have children. They usually are caregivers of older parents. They usually have more friends. So they're not working. They're not choosing to work the 90, 80 hours a week that often, their male counterparts are in a law firm, for example. And it's just by choice. And I think they're smarter, because I think being a well-rounded human being is more than just economics. But that 9% matters.
Yeah.
And I felt it. And that's a lot. Like, that's horrific.
Was it something conscious in you that, you as a woman who also was grew up Mormon, like that's a big factor of it too.
Yeah.
One, the woman of it all. Two, the Mormon of it all. Was there like a conscious shift in, okay, I'm going to ask for, cause your whole job, like, yes, you're creating value, but you're still asking people for things.
I'm totally asking, and having to be a super assertive, hustler, competitive, like willing to talk, getting up front, having my opinion, contend, all that stuff.
Disrupt, like
totally,
it's
all
unnatural kind of.
Yeah, and I've been in the music industry, the entertainment industry, the finance industry. Those are all very male-dominated fields. But I would say that, why I could do it? I can honestly say I didn't have that confidence instilled from my culture, or my upbringing, or my parents loved me, but it was not the.
They weren't like, you can do anything, Lindsay.
No,
go.
that was not the story, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't what it wasn't that they. It wasn't anything like intentional or malicious. It's just like what,
right.
And I don't disagree. I think the most incredibly rewarding thing in the world is to be a mother. However, for me, why I've been able to do what I do is at every single turn, at every single time, it's been because I'm doing it on behalf of others, and it emboldens me to be braver than I actually am innately.
Yeah, you can you're fighting for other people.
Yeah,
so that,
for sure.
that's interesting.
Whether because it was the cause or my team or my, the strategic partners I worked with, or in my case, even being my children as the primary breadwinner in my family now, so.
I think that's why you were put on this earth, is to it's just very clear that you're like an angel here to eradicate polio and end world hunger.
Careful, I'm really not. But
can you tell the story of your biggest failure, which you can tell me if this is wrong, but what I heard you say is that the concert where you lost $100K and then out of it got your mentor.
Yes.
I think that's a great story.
It's a great story. Thank you for letting me tell it.
Yeah.
I love telling failure stories. I fail all the time, you guys. I think to be successful, and I just I don't know, looking right at the camera, who has to hear this?
Yeah, that's your camera.
Failure is the price tag of success. It is a part of the process if you allow it to be. And failure is a gift. It teaches you how to iterate. Nothing teaches you more than failure. I think our culture does such a disservice on only highlighting what's working. And I'm guilty of it. I only put my highlight reel on social.
Right.
Here's me, bottoming out as a human. I mean, so many failures. I mean, endless failures of all kinds of different ways. But this one was my first full-blown, devastating faceplant. And we put on a concert. And we had, this is again going to date me, but we had 311, Third Eye Blind, Dashboard Confessional, all these artists performing. Yeah.
Love them.
That's a great song. We were just doing a normal concert, not the Global Citizen leveraging top-down commitments, but actually just charging tickets. And it was called the Candlelight Serenade. And
cute.
It is a cute name. And we had an acoustic version. Thank you, by the way. My friend Sam came up with the same concert friend. But anyway, it was acoustic stripped down versions of their songs. And we needed 8,000 people to break even, and we only sold 5,000 tickets. Wow. So it felt like just a dismal failure, and we were $100,000 short at the night.
So you're working for a nonprofit, and they're now $100,000 in debt.
And
you're like, it's my fault.
And I was the executive director and the only employee of this startup nonprofit. So imagine, they had seen me have success in concerts, and this was my first music festival. So I'd had successful concerts, and then they're like, oh, you're great, just do a festival. And I didn't know that it was apples to oranges, a festival and a concert. I thought they were the same thing, just a little bigger. But the reality is, and I found this out later, they're very different. But when we put it on, I remember the board members had to write a check to make the charity whole. And it was basically, the charity was now in debt. So I'm here at the startup charity, 10 months in. I come home that night at 3 a.m. I hadn't seen my two little boys who were toddlers for I felt months, because I was so desperately trying to save this event. And because when the ticket sales weren't coming in at the pace you hope, it was just I was literally hawking tickets in the street. I was psychotic, trying to save it. And I came home that night, and fell prostrate on the ground in my living room floor, and I was sobbing. And I just remember having this overwhelming, I'm such a failure. Why did I even think I could do this? What audacity. Like, who am I? What a loser leader. Like these were these sacred funds, like a charity. It was for combating anti-trafficking.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, all these people helped. I had 100 volunteers. I was the only, I had myself and an assistant, no paid staff. I was just sick about it, right? And as I was crying, I remember hearing, I felt, heaven, or I do believe in a spirit world.
You heard a literal voice?
Not an literal voice, but I heard, it felt like it didn't feel, it wasn't coming from me. I was going down this deep, shame spiral.
Okay.
And I just heard, pick yourself up, make things go right. This isn't about you. And it was this brutal, but also loving beckoning to betterment, and basically saying, I started thinking about it. And the moment that I felt that, it shocked me and stopped me in my tracks. But I realized so much of the despair I was feeling was, and this is good for me to hear today, because I get these moments now, literally just in the last 24 hours, I've been feeling this way, where it's just that self-doubt and that self-deprecation, and
it's
that
the worst.
The blame and the shame and all that stuff, and self-hatred, and we're so harsh and critical on ourselves. And I realized it was actually super self-focused, when I thought I was taking radical accountability to myself, but actually it wasn't. Real accountability is I got to get up and make things go right. And that's what I was asked to do. So I went to bed totally exhausted. The next morning I woke up and I'm feeding my toddler his baby food, and I'm
feeling
asking
a fucking
God,
loser.
yeah, totally. And I'm asking God, I don't even know how to make things go right. I don't know how I made things go wrong. I did everything I'd done at these concerts that was successful. And
you don't
failed.
even know what.
I didn't even know what I didn't
tough.
know. It was very disorienting. So I actually Googled who is the most successful concert promoter in the world, and it said Golden Voice, and they are the guys who produce Coachella. And Coachella has been around for decades and is the most successful concert in history, music festival. It sells out 2 weekends of 75,000 people, so 150,000 tickets in less than an hour without one mention of an artist. That's how amazing the brand is. So I'm Golden Voice, who runs Golden Voice? And trying to find the internet. And there's a guy named Paul Tillett, and he was all over in the interviews and face everywhere. And then I found this obscure Bill Fold, and Bill was kind of the operations, a COO. And
did you go with him instead of Paul because you thought he'd be more accessible?
Exactly. And also, he's probably the one that gets a lot of this stuff done and can tell me maybe more the minutia, because sometimes the front man isn't the one behind the scenes, right? I just cold called. I literally sent a cold email. This is shout out to cold emails.
Yeah.
We have a guy on our team.
The power of cold emails,
Totally.
baby.
We have a guy on our team at Harbor called Fraser, who's the best cold caller in the history of ever.
We got to talk to him.
You do. He's amazing. Fraser.
Oh, I was sick
He's
name.
from New Zealand, and he is just the cutest thing you've ever seen. And
is he single?
He's married. He's beautiful, beautiful Jade. Anyway, but his cold calls are just to die for. He's crushes.
Dripping hot.
Yes, just so much, so good. So anyway, I cold called an email, and I was super vulnerable, and I was hey, I'm a stay-home mom. I basically because I was working from home doing this, and I was hey, I did this concert for this anti-trafficking effort, and I face planted it, and I don't know what I did wrong. I was just wondering if I could have 20 minutes of your time to pick your brain, and just maybe you can tell me what the freak I could do to make things go right. I literally just that, And he called me.
Wow.
And I couldn't do anything for him. He called me, which is such a beautiful life's lesson, to be people when you are in a position to just help people that can do nothing for you. And so he calls me and he tells me, you know what, $100,000 lost your first year festival? He's that's really good. And I was what? He goes, Coachella lost for the first 10 years, lost money.
Wow.
And he goes on to explain, usually there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions the first year. You need a runway of 3 years. You just didn't design it with that insight because you didn't know. And the reason it's different than concerts is concerts, you're promoting the artist, whoever the artist is. So if you have Ed Sheeran, everyone knows Ed Sheeran. That's the brand, that's the billboards, that's the radio ads, that's the social media, posts. But when it's a concert, it's a bunch of names on a list.
Yeah.
And so you're branding a new brand. And so there's not enough market share equity really yet. Does that make sense? First year's festival needs
that makes
time
sense.
to gain market
And
share.
you need to create a vibe.
And the first 3 years, 95% of music festivals lose money. So it's if you have the runway and the investment and you have that insight of the industry, then you can go a little longer. But yeah, in this case, we epically failed. So he's like, it's not that bad. You did pretty good, actually. And so then he like
Then
says,
immediately like, okay,
yeah,
I'm a star.
he helped me feel better, right? He was encouraging. And then he said, why don't you come visit me? I'm setting up a Stagecoach, which takes place in Indio Valley where they do Coachella, which is like the cowboy version
Yep.
of
Oh, yeah.
Coachella. And he said, why don't you come down? And I flew down immediately, like the next day with my husband. And I remember, I'll never forget, he picked me up in a golf cart. That's one of the perks of being a music festival producer oftentimes. He's
Yeah.
on a golf cart, and he had his little dog, who was a little Jack Russell Terrier named Rico, and he had his own credentials, like a VIP
That's
all
so
access
cute.
pass. And I was like, did we just become best friends? Because his dog was so cool. Anyway, Bill went on to be my mentor, and the next concert I did was the end of Polio that raised $118 million. And I called him to like
Holy
help
shit.
run it with me, and he said, look, I got someone better, Michael Gudinski and Frontier Touring, who are like the big, festival promoters of Australia. I'll connect you to them. But then the following year, we did Central Park, and I said, do you want to do this with me? He goes, I'll do that one. So he went on to
Amazing.
produce
Dang.
this concert that leveraged billions of dollars, and he said it was one of the greatest blessings of his career. So how fun is that? That 2 years later, someone who called me who I could do nothing for ended up getting tens of millions of dollars to produce a concert.
Yeah.
And
So sad.
That must have felt really good for you too.
because he was good. Yeah, it was beautiful.
The-
It's
the
virtuous
lesson-
cycle,
And the lesson that I take from that is just like find the people at the top and go for it. Like,
Totally.
you're consistently surrounded by the best people, like
Try.
the best at their
Yes.
craft.
Yeah, and in this case, I really could do nothing for him. He just helped because he thought, my intent was pure. And I just got the blessing of his reckless generosity. But what's cool is sometimes if you don't have that, you can find ways to create intrinsic value to get access. So maybe take someone from your network and connect somebody else that's high profile and just have them meet each other. And like just let the goodness of like the value of connecting, you could be 1 degree from someone. As long as you had somebody else that was worthy of their connection, you can like end up
Yeah.
brokering a lot of value in people.
Do you find it difficult to be non-transactional? Like, I mean, I think like hearing you talk about the value, like providing value probably eradicates a little bit of that transactionality. But
Yeah.
I've just found it hard for us. Like we're in a position where like there's people we meet and they can help us and we want to be able to offer them something and we do think of ways to
Yeah,
add
of
value, but
course.
like we don't want it to ever feel
Yeah.
transactional.
You know what? Transactions aren't a bad thing. I think we innately like are a little allergic to it for good reason. Because usually when we say transactional, we mean void of care
Yeah.
or empathy or real love or relationship. But you can have amazing transactions with friends
Yeah.
all the time. I don't think it's kind of like the word manipulation is like has this like
It's like
the actual
trendy
definition
word.
is to like influence someone, like to a way they weren't going, and you can manipulate for good. You can
Yeah.
manipulate. Someone's gonna like shoot someone in a public setting, and you can manipulate them to put their gun down. Like it,
Right.
like some of these phrases, they're like if we just look at them at first glance, but the spirit of it is spot on. Like we don't want to be looking at people as a vehicle to get somewhere, an ATM, someone to use. Like
Yeah.
if we can see their humanity and genuinely honor what their agendas are, what they're trying to accomplish, and we can set aside just overriding what we're trying to do, we can actually be present to what's alive in them, and then we can actually get more creative or kind of like not ask at the moment. And so I think that is a gift of, for sure, mine is, for whatever reason, I think I just deeply love people. I think, like I said, I think they're all good.
Yeah.
So I kind of delight in,
People can see that somehow.
I delight in humans. They're like,
Me too.
I collect them for a living. I'm literally like, I think I'm one of the best in the world at collecting humans. And I
For
think
sure.
they're amazing people. And I have like my top shelf ones, and every now and then, you find out one is like, oh, that was a fraud. That was a counterfeit. That's
Yeah.
But you
full
can
school.
always tell.
You
It
can
always
kinda-
comes.
But yeah, it ends up revealing. Like if you
Mhm.
want to see who somebody is, see who they surround themselves with, who their tribe is.
So it's
how
not
they
like
treat people,
all
how they
these
talk
rich
about people.
people are lizards and
No,
like-
in fact, that breaks my heart because I think that the demonization of the wealthy is so myopic and so misguided. Because of course, people that have a certain level of extreme privilege, can be blamed for the world's problems. But that is so unbelievably fair to just like characterize an entire group of people, just like you wouldn't want them to do that to the poor. I've actually found in my life's
point.
experience, there's more judging up than there is down.
Yeah. yeah.
We always make the caricature of the rich person on Titanic, Jack, you're in the lower class, and like the snotty, like That's actually more rare in my experience. My experience is poor people judging the shit out of people that have
I
a lot
think
of
it's
wealth.
because people just need to be like, okay, they have everything. They can't. I can't accept that they have goodwill in their heart because that's
Yeah.
like
yeah.
I have such a lack, so I just have to believe the worst in them.
I think jealousy and also incredible lack of self-awareness. So, for example, the average person we deal with, we are middle-income people or just average humans. If we're out in the world, compared to people living in abject poverty at $1.50 a day, we are filthy rich.
Yeah.
Our shoes, our pants are worth more than they make in a month, and we're not giving everything we have away so that they can eat. We don't live completely simply and stripped down so that others have their basic needs met. So why are you asking someone to do something you're not doing in your life? Like, at what point is there self-reflection about that? Like, it's all relative. Wealth is relative. Now, I know.
It's like the massively wealthy,
okay,
right?
so that I will totally go there, of course, as somebody who spent my life trying to alleviate suffering and get rich people to give money to do good.
Yeah.
People look at what I'm doing at Harbor and they're like, oh, that's just a bunch of paying a bunch of celebrities their fees and you guys have jets and private islands and all this stuff. 100% we do all this because, in their ecosystem, that's the level of how to engage them and how to create experience and how to build a community and all this stuff. And you can demonize it or you can look at what is the outcome. If I can make films that can change the lives of millions of people, like the movie Lion, we have the producer coming to our next event.
That movie rocks.
Awesome movie. 1.2 million children were brought back to their families by UNICEF because that movie underscored the fact that,
You've just figured out how to play the game.
Yeah, it's a media. Exactly. It's about access and media. So what I would say is I use this analogy a lot. But I'd say you can do, I don't know, a dinky fundraiser, let's say a lemonade stand for some cause you care about. And you have no overhead. You can volunteer, mix the sugar, mix the lemons, go and sit out there, have your marker, and sell and make $100 for the cause you care about. Or I can put on a Beyonce concert. It costs $5 million, but raises 10 million. It's 50% overhead. Which would you prefer I do for the cause? The one that ends up with 5 million because it had a really expensive overhead and paid people well and spent money on marketing and flew people on a private jet and
plus you're seeing these people with these resources wanting to give them.
Yeah. And honestly, it's just looking, like you said, playing the game. It's looking at what are the resources to accomplish
how can we do this,
right?
Yeah.
And speaking with billionaires who just have all the money in the world. Yeah, I think that's not right at all. If I had any influence or access to somebody just having this amalgamation of wealth, and I'd be you're not going to give it away ever, nothing. That's insane. But that's not my sense.
But they do.
Some of them, what they do, their strategy, and this is where it shows the lack of self-awareness and education, in my opinion, when the public is pitchforking this stuff. For example, an endowment where you put let's say $1 billion into a fund that's making money, you can be kicking off tens and 18%, 15%, 10% a year. Hundreds of millions of dollars to be given in perpetuity if you have an endowment versus if you just gave away your $1 billion.
Right.
So
okay.
you can either give over time, you can give way more if you actually invested the money or kept it in the market. Also, job creation and the levers of capitalism have been proven to alleviate poverty more than giving money away. Giving the money away actually creates much more enabling and it does more hurting than it does helping. So there's just a lack of education and self-awareness in a lot of this stuff. The demonization of overhead and nonprofits. I can't believe that.
I was gonna say, what would you say to people who are just nonprofits? Because nonprofits have some bad PR sometimes. People think that the CEO's just paying themselves a shit ton of money.
Right, and there is, by the way, there are some really unethical nonprofits that are evil and actually conniving and fraudulent, and we should call that out and we should go after those people. But to take a percentage of overhead or how much somebody pays themselves is somehow that innately is evil is, again, ignorance. Because what if I told you I could hire someone for $1 million, but they could raise $500 million versus I can pay someone $60,000 pauper and they raise $200,000. Which would you prefer? The person with high capacity and the output? You should look at the outcome. The outcome should be if the pie is bigger, how much good is done for issues versus the percentage of overhead. It comes from our Puritan. In fact, I made my first documentary I executive produced called Uncharitable that had Norton in. And it's about this very subject. And if you don't have time to watch the 90-minute doc on Apple, shameless plug, you can...
Hell yeah, we love a plug here.
You can go to YouTube and watch on TED Talks, Dan Pallotta's TED Talk called "The Way We Think of Charity is Dead Wrong," which is all about this this exact issue. But the idea is like, you know, if our Puritan roots, we would penance with charity as our way of like our sin or like our profit making tendencies. We're like, oh, we're bad people. Here's our charity. So we always saw that like you can't do good and you know actually benefit. And it's like, no, like what? That's an archaic idea.
Right, to think that charity is inherently an evil thing because of capitalism is like so hopeless.
It's also just highly ineffective. Do you want to continue to see the suffering that we've seen in the world?
Yeah.
Then make charities have their arms tied behind their back, where they can't lever the same things in the private sector that every business can, which is spend money on marketing, hire the best talent, and take risks. Those 3 levers are the most effective things in scaling and having success in the world, and they're not allowed to do it, which is crazy making.
That's going to be a sick clip for the internet. I'm curious about this movie with about The Body Keeps the Score with Bradley Cooper and Katie Couric.
Yeah,
Oh, you're doing a movie of that?
TV series.
Isn't that crazy?
Body Keeps the Score, yeah, was a New York bestseller about trauma in the body. And
It's like the first one, I think.
Yeah,
right?
it's amazing. It's based on some very definitive research about, you know, when we have traumatic psychological events, interpersonal events, and emotional events, our body actually manifests it, and there's a higher incentive correlation for the body to have like illnesses, whether it's autoimmune or cancers, or, you know, of course we know mental ill health is directly generated from traumatic events, but it's actually showing that like other physical ailments have a direct correlation. So if somebody has something really traumatic happening in childhood, there's all these comorbidities later in life, and they're tying them to these events.
How are they doing the series? Is it fiction?
It's going to be a docu-series, so they're
Okay.
going to like basically educate and share it.
And are they acting in it, or are they?
Well, Bradley Cooper's narrating it.
Okay.
So yeah, and they're, you know, these are the kind of projects we're doing. One of my favorite books of all time is called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
I want to read that. That's on my Goodreads.
I should reread it because it's amazing. I read it 2 years ago, and I'm like, I need to read it again. But I read it every so often. But it's about the Holocaust and a gentleman named Viktor Frankl, who was a psychiatrist placed in the, you know, he loses, his wife is killed, his family's killed, he's stripped of everything.
He's in the concentration
tortured,
camp.
suffering beyond measure, and starts to realize that like he has a chance to do research that would be otherwise utterly unethical to like look at humans in suffering. He's like, oh, I'm a researcher and I'm around all these people suffering the most dire of situations.
Like currently, while he's in the
so
concentration
I'm going to
camp.
be I'm going to be a psychiatrist and actually like do the psychological research in real time.
And doesn't he like find joy? Like that's his way of finding
the
joy.
spoiler alert is that you can survive any what if you have a strong enough why.
Fuck, that's crazy.
Isn't that great? So he says if you can have meaning, you can deal with any pain. There's a line in the book. It says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our choice. And in that choice is our freedom and our power. And this idea that, like, we actually have a choice about what to do no matter the situation, that they could take everything from you, strip you down, all of your life, and, you know, everything, and you can still make a choice about your paradigm and your heart posture and what you do next.
And coming from someone in the worst of human situations, it's like that's the most powerful
It's
thing.
so
I can even
beautiful. And he
imagine.
proved it like through research. He saw the people that had meaning lived, they
Yeah.
survived, and they went on to help others, and they did miraculous, heroic things.
Wow. Okay, Lindsay Hadley, an angel on earth, curing world hunger, naturally blonde, hot Australian husband, makes a bunch of money, can live in Australia and Hawaii. I'm jealous of your life. What's the
True.
name of our rapid fire again?
Global Sweetie. After Global Citizen. We
Global
like to rename it.
Sweetie.
I love it.
This is our rapid fire. It's really never that rapid. Who's your celeb crush?
Bradley Cooper. But I've not
But
met
you've,
him.
like, met-
I haven't met him. No, I
Are you
I
gonna
worked
meet
with
him?
Katie Couric on that project. I like kind of hope I don't, because I just, you know,
It's too
I'm
much.
so dreamy. I don't, and by the way,
It's
like,
too much.
because I work with celebrities and I have my whole career, like since I was in my 20s, you know, you do get to the point where you really can see them as people. I mean, you're always excited. You're like, oh my gosh, I love you in this. Oh my gosh. But, you know, eventually you acclimate to being chill
Right.
and
They're
normal.
just people. Are they
And
your friends?
Some of them are my good friends, yeah, but it depends, right? Like, I've worked with so many over my career, but ultimately, for whatever reason, Bradley Cooper, the Coops, you know, like
The
those-
cubes.
those
He's like up there
eyes.
in like heaven.
Yes.
You're like, just leave him there.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Please.
So I have plants in my house, and I read in this book that if you talk to your plants,
Yes.
We were just
yeah, the
talking about
Braided
this.
Sweetgrass, amazing book. If you talk to your plants, there's research to show that they thrive. So if you personify them, I think they're energy. I think they're living. I think that they actually have an intelligence of some form.
Yes.
So I named all my plants to help them thrive because I have like the worst green thumb
That
ever.
one's Bradley. That one's Cooper.
Yes, so I named them all after men I loved, and then the flowers after women I love in my house.
That's so cute.
So anyway, I have a Bradley Cooper, and he's a big, beautiful tree, but he's in my shower.
Wait, I'm obsessed with that. What are your thoughts on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
Well, most of those people featured, I only watched like the first episode. Full disclosure, I haven't really seen it, but I really try to make stuff that's really edifying and really like shows the best of humanity. So I didn't keep
Right.
watching.
Yeah.
Totally.
No offense to the people that put that together. I'm sure it was a lot of hard work, and I'm sure there's great redeeming moments in it. But you know, it was very trashy to me, and I was like, oh no, thanks.
Well, they're not more. They're
Well,
not.
that's what I was just gonna say is they're not actually living like the church's
Right,
teachings
at
and
all.
the faith. So these are people that are like adjacent
They're,
or
yeah,
or ex-Mormon
ex-Mormon.
or you know not practicing. I personally have deconstructed Mormonism in the way that
Are you still Mormon?
I call myself Mormonish.
Okay, last question. Would you ever fund a movie with AI actors?
You know what? Yeah, in theory, I don't mean we're not like currently, we haven't been pitched that. I think right now I'd rather prefer actors so they're human. But if like, what do you mean? Like if it's a character that's like a made up, you know, like alien, like, yeah, maybe.
Like
for
a
sure.
like a
An actual person.
you know how the person won the AI person thing
Yeah.
won the
They got
Oscar?
nominated for that.
Oh yeah, I remember
Or
that.
yeah, they got nominated, didn't win, I guess. But like
Yeah.
with that, would you put
Like, would you? Yeah, like to replace. a
say
human.
say Jacob Elordi? Is he big enough? No, who's like an OG.
Timothy Chalamet, Brad Pitt.
Yeah, say Brad Pitt comes to you and he's like, listen, I have this movie. It's gonna like
It's gonna crash.
it's gonna save all the dogs and
it's gonna save all the dogs.
and all the people are AI. Would you be
Yeah.
like, I'll consider it?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not as closed to the utility of AI. I do think that it's just a new technology. It's concerning. It's like again a really nuanced view, and we need to use it ethically. And I don't love it when I like listen to a jam into a song and then I'm like, oh, that's an AI artist. I kind of feel weird. I kind of feel a little
Yeah.
betrayed and a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I have this one
It's
AI
a creepy
artist I
feeling
like.
when you see something exceptional and then you find out it's not human. You just feel a little like betrayed, you know.
Yeah. Totally.
But I think we're so early days. We don't know where this is all going. We're investors, and so we just want to pick stories that are going to win, and also stories that have an impact for the culture. So
So it
like,
doesn't
I
matter.
probably don't have like a strong dogma about that right now, where I'm like, heck no, never. I know some people in Hollywood that make them really triggered. I think that I'm seeing what I like, what I'd prefer right now is like, not having AI scripts. Maybe, of course, you could use AI to edit your script, but like
You can
having
tell
them
if
be
it's an
from
AI
people.
script.
Yeah, and then having also like you could have AI environments or worlds or editing, and then have like real actors emote so that we can connect more to the human being.
Yeah.
But in general, like I just don't know yet. I don't know enough about it, and the stuff I haven't seen isn't good enough anyway yet. But like, who knows, man? Like,
Dude, someone last night was telling me who has this like major investment thing, invests in a lot of AI stuff, was telling me how in 2040 there's supposed to be more robots than people in the world.
I mean, there's a lot
down.
coming down the pipe. We actually have a documentary that we're showcasing at our next forum called the AI Doc. And if you want to watch a crazy, scary trailer, watch that. But it's unbelievable. It's the guys who did the Social Dilemma. But I'll just share that, like, in general, I think that just humility in general and being curious and open about things is a better frame. I mean, because we just miss things. If we're just so convicted and sure and right and wrong, and thinking through analysis in black and white terms is generally not the healthiest way, because things are so nuanced. Things are so incongruent.
Okay, sweetie moment.
Okay.
So that's times when someone's been dismissed or underestimated, things that as women we go through a lot. Doesn't have to be from a man. Can be from just anything in your life. What would you say is your okay, sweetie moment of your life?
I had, a woman kind of say to me once when I was talking about how hard the pressures of like all that I was carrying with work and, my life, like I have a beautiful life. I would never pretend otherwise. I'm so blessed. I have beautiful
We
children.
all have our things, though.
But yes,
like
I've
you're allowed to have your
I've
things.
had the most painful and like demolishing and heartbreaking scenarios.
Yeah.
And dark nights of the soul and suffering and heartache. This comment came to me after I had actually had everything I own in the world stolen. I went to go be with my dying brother-in-law in Australia, and I put all my belongings in storage. And while we were gone, it was an inside job, and the storage company stole everything. We're talking my photos, my journals, my heirlooms. It was the effect of
For
like
fucking what? Why do they need your damn
because
journals?
everything I owned was there, and I had brand new restoration hardware and Pottery Barn furniture and brand new appliances because I had just moved back from Australia to Utah. And so we put our stuff in the storage in Holiday, Utah, and it was no sign of breaking and entering. They opened it, they took it all like the Grinch who stole Christmas. It was the same effect of having a fire, but way more violating.
Did you sue them?
Well, no, we couldn't prove it. There's no sign. They had the cameras
That's
off.
dirty.
They had the cameras off, and they showed no sign of breaking and entering, so the insurance didn't even pay for it. I ended up having to take my renter's insurance and pay for it. And as a result, I had a friend whose stuff was in there too, and we had a huge falling out. She accused me of stealing her stuff. It was horrific. It was horrific. So not just losing my stuff, but losing this friendship
Yeah.
and all of these other dynamics that went on. But like, I just buried my brother-in-law too.
Yeah.
So like losing a human being felt like I couldn't even mourn my things. But imagine all these people that lost their stuff in their fires. I had that, but someone stole it and it's out there somewhere. My baby photos, my journals. It was
Violating.
So violating. But I can say, like, after it was happening, I was talking about how stressed I was, how hard it is to be like a working mom, how much pressure I had. And this person just so callously is like, yeah, but you choose it. And I remember just being like, why would you say that? Like, why would you say, but it's in a way like, I remember at the time just being bristled, like such a lack of empathy.
Wait, in what world are you choosing that?
I don't know.
Like how is
I
he
don't
even
know.
justifying this statement?
I think she wasn't referring necessarily to like the victimhood of my like stuff being stolen, but she was just talking about my life. I've chosen my life. And in a way I've made many choices.
Haven't we all? Like, that's a good thing.
But it was just that kind of, okay, sweetie, like there was just like a dismissal of suffering. And I've had that happen a few times. Yeah. Like, yeah, I've had people that I love when I was struggling with, like I had a mental ill health, after this kind of came a season of depression and anxiety. And I had two different people I love actually say like, yeah, well, I'm not here to babysit an adult when I was telling them that I was having suicidal ideation. So, I mean, I've had some pretty cruel.
Is that a religious? Do you think that's like or were those people religious?
Yeah, they have different like worldviews, but I think there was some kind of a distancing to suffering that they did in their minds. Lack of empathy, lack of capacity. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't asking them to like hold my hand every day. I was just crying.
Be a friend.
How I was struggling.
Guess what? That's friendship. That's a really important part of life, and you have to be good friends to people.
These people ended up not being very good friends to me, but ultimately, like what it did do for me, which is like not to silver lining it, it's heartbreaking, is like anytime I see someone in a situation like that, like my empathy meter goes like 1,000,000% high. Not only because I've experienced it, but I never want to make someone feel like that disregarded or a burden, like the way I was,
you're already feeling worthless, and then you're like, okay, actually, no, I guess I am.
Yeah, and I find it an honor to step into people's, biggest suffering. I find it like a privilege, like truly.
So where can people find you? Like how can people help you or be engaged in your...
So we have the harbor-fund.org website. Oops, sorry. And you can reach out there. We have like a contact if for filmmakers, if you're watching this and you're like, I want to get my script, unless it has A-list attached or that talent would actually come to like our events, we don't worry, don't waste your time. No offense.
Don't worry. We'll call you.
No offense. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we'll call you. $100,000 buy-in for the fun.
Exactly. So
stuff.
to attend a lot of our events. And basically, it just isn't like generally we're looking for talent that's engaging because that's what's getting funded, that's what's getting distributed, that's what's having the impact, right? We're about impact. Totally. So it's not that we're like star chasing, it's that they're the kings and queens of culture and the masters of their craft.
Yeah.
They're the best.
No, it makes sense. So thank you so much for your time. You're fabulous. I want to keep hanging out.
We
could
love
stay
you
here
guys.
for a while.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When is the Body Keeps the Score coming out? So guys, if you liked that episode, be excited for the telepathy tapes coming out. Be excited for the Body Keeps the Score. All these amazing things. Lindsay's probably behind it. And give us a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. If you feel philanthropic. If she inspired you to do something good for the world today. And thanks so much for listening. We love ya.